representatives here in Augusta right now, both chambers actually, are debating a budget issue. It's got both chambers very wrapped up. What they're talking about, Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand, somewhere in the vicinity of $130 to $160 million budget shortfall, somewhere in that. The budget deficit, the difference between revenues and projected revenues.
We're just about to close it, so
good.
We've been closing that gap, so it is pretty much closed.
Well, a week or so ago, it was about $150 million. And the Iraq War, which President Bush started, and most of us feel it was illegal, and it's pretty clear that it was illegal, cost the Maine taxpayers 8 times that amount of money. So what we're talking about here is the expenditure of public funds. You can spend your public funds on war, or you can spend your public funds on what the legislature here is debating for the state of Maine. 8 times what they were looking at as a deficit a week ago is what was spent on the Iraq War. So if that doesn't make it state business, I don't know what does. Secondly, the state legislature has a role, as was mentioned before, because the state legislature can introduce items of impeachment directly to Congress, or they can pressure our congresspeople. What we need to do from here on out is make it the state's issue by calling legislators constantly, letting them know that we feel it is their business, by calling our congressmen to let them know that it's their business. And if the state legislature would like this issue to go away from their palette, from their agenda, what the leadership of the legislature can do is tell Mike Michaud and Tom Allen that they have to do their job, which is to make this issue come up in Congress, for them to support H.R. 333, which is the impeachment resolution for Richard Cheney. This issue involves a fair amount of legal detail and analysis and so forth, and we have, fortunately, the Maine Lawyers for Democracy have been very much a part of this issue. They have met and voted to support impeachment. They have done a detailed research paper into the issue of impeachment as it affects our Congress, our state legislature, and all of us. And I have with us today Lynn Williams. Where is Lynn? Right here. Lynn is a lawyer from Bar Harbor, and she's a member of the National Lawyers Guild. She's actually the chair of the Maine chapter of the Maine Lawyers Guild, of the National Lawyers Guild, and is a member of the Lawyers for Democracy. Lynn has done a lot of analysis on this issue, and she's going to talk with you a bit about where we go from here and what our strategy is and how we deal with this challenge. Thank you.
That says no crimes were committed. Absolutely wrong. Crimes were committed. And I will tell you, it doesn't even have to be a crime to warrant impeachment. We hear the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors. I prefer to use the phrase subverting the Constitution. It makes much more sense. Visualize the Constitution on paper with George Bush ripping it up, Dick Cheney ripping it up into smaller pieces, and the rest of their colleagues ripping it up into tiny pieces, so it's laying there, a little pile of tiny pieces of paper that was once our Constitution. And then imagine them setting it on fire so that all that remain are ashes. This is what this administration is trying to do to our United States Constitution. Briefly, there are 4 main issues that warrant impeachment. And they're factual, and they're easy to understand, and we all know what they are. First is the Iraq War. This is an illegal war. This was a war of aggression, and the only way countries are permitted to engage in a war of aggression is in self-defense. And we know now that Saddam Hussein was no threat to us. And this was not self-defense. This was an illegal war of aggression.
It was good business.
And this warrants impeachment. Not only was there an illegal, and continues to be an illegal war of aggression, but there was illegal conduct throughout the war, and there continues to be illegal conduct. The torture of prisoners in Abu Ghraib, the torture of prisoners in secret prisons in Eastern Europe, the torture of prisoners in Guantanamo was illegal wartime behavior. This warrants impeachment. We don't know where many of these prisoners are in these secret prisons. We may never know, and we may never get them out of there. Thirdly, and I think more lawyers are into this, but this behavior is arguably the most impeachable behavior if we want to engage in a hierarchy. The warrantless spying on American citizens. Richard Nixon, most of us were around then as I look around, had his enemies list. He had that list on paper. This administration has a database that makes that look like a list of one, all from spying on American citizens. We have a secret court, and this was a court that was set up so that issues of national security can be dealt with outside of our criminal justice system. So that, like your regular law and order cops who have to go for a warrant before they wiretap, security agencies could go to the secret FISA court and get their warrant. And since the secret FISA court was begun, they've only turned down the security agency's request for warrants around 5 times. But George Bush says the secret FISA court is too burdensome. So he refuses to go to any court to get any warrant to spy on American citizens. This is impeachable behavior. This is very impeachable behavior. Lastly, we have the essential repeal of due process for anyone who has any tenuous connection to national security activities, to terrorism, to domestic terrorism, which is a whole other topic. Due process is too burdensome for this administration, so it's gone. It's essentially gone for many, many people. Habeas corpus, due process rights, private conversations with attorneys, everything of that sort. I want to read a quote for you before I end. For those people, and probably none of you here, but for those people who think that perhaps wartime is not the right time to pursue impeachment, I give to you the words of Edmund Randolph, who was the governor of Virginia and a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. And Governor Randolph said, "The executive will have great opportunities of abusing his power, particularly in times of war, when the military force, and in some respects the public money, will be in his hands. Now is the time, and we are the ones. We must put our elected officials on notice that we will not tolerate a lawless, rogue administration. Not now and not ever again. There is a remedy, and we must avail ourselves of it. Impeach now."